I think there were a few things that was quite surprising about the students here. The first one was that because they were working in large groups of 7 to 8 people, and there were groups made of very different ages, 13, 14, 15, 16, up to 17, right? Yeah. And the fact that the seniors actually didn't disregard the junior suggestions when they were suggesting ideas was actually quite impressive. I didn't see any significant disparity due to age or due to hierarchy or due to seniority. And I think that is something that was very eye-opening, because this is something that is still prevalent in Singapore. We assume that seniors always know better, and then we usually try to follow them, but that was not what I saw here. It was a very open culture, so that was very surprising. The second one is that usually when we work in many big groups, there will be some people that contribute and there will be some people who will sit back and stay reserved. But then in Sabah Chinese High School, during the workshop, all the students are actually contributing. Like, nobody was forcefully projecting their ideas to others either, but nobody was also staying back and doing nothing. Everybody was actually given an opportunity to share without the need for facilitation. So the school is doing something right. And I think that was very impressive, because that is not something you see very often as well. When we did the workshop, I didn't give them an introduction of the kids, right? Of how to use the Stick'em ecosystem, but they were able to figure it out pretty fast. I just showed them, like, oh, you can probably do this with the electronics, and then they applied that knowledge to make a car, they applied that knowledge to make a Doraemon hat that spins on top of them within a span of 30 minutes. So that means they are very adaptive, they learn very fast. Cooperative learning in the way that I've seen them do yesterday was surprising also. I think it's the mindset that the school encourages these students to have that allows this to happen. So that mindset, I think, will develop into their ability to learn and their ability to work with one another. So for Sabah Chinese High School, I realized that the curriculum here is very progressive. The principal here, I think, is very forward-thinking. She knows what the students need to know in the future, and she has implemented that very well in the classrooms. However, in Singapore, you realize that because it's very top-down driven, the government knows exactly what the students need. However, the implementation and the changes to the curriculum takes a bit of time. I think Sabah Chinese High School is way ahead in terms of technological education in the school's curriculum. On Arduino and coding. First thing is that I was very surprised that every single student in this school will have an opportunity to do this for continuously throughout the year, right? And actually that's not something you have in Singapore as of now. They have nationwide programs for everyone, but it doesn't run across the year. And I think the teachers here that are managing the activities and the curriculum that happens in the class, within the class, has a very in-depth understanding of how children learn. The way they plan the class out is very progressive. Progressive in the sense that they start with something very bite-sized, and they make sure the students understands it, applies it, and then they make them learn something slightly harder, and then they repeat that process over and over again. So even if the students are not able to do the most difficult thing in the lesson, they understand the fundamentals of what they are supposed to learn during the lesson, the main concept. And then for those who are able to do more, they'll be able to learn more because there are harder challenges for them to do. But then this method actually leaves no one behind. In terms of their competency, there was still a wide variety. There was a few students who knew exactly what they were doing throughout the entire class. And then there were quite a few students who didn't really know what they were doing up until the half point. But then at the end of it, those students who didn't really know what they were doing initially at least understood what they were doing at the end. So even though they were not able to do something challenging, they were able to understand the concept behind it and apply it on a basic level. And I think that's the most important. So that shows that the students in this school actually have a strong ability to learn. So that means their resiliency to overcoming challenges is actually quite strong. in that class, I've not seen a single student that actually gave up and started copying other people just to get the tick on their attendance sheet. And that's quite impressive. Like, it's usually a natural tendency for children at this age to avoid challenges, avoid mental rigor. But then what I saw there, all of them pushed through, so that was quite impressive. And I also think that's because of the way the teachers do not seem to make failure look like a bad thing. They actually encourage failure, and then they will help them how to overcome the failure. I think that's super important because students learn best through failure. If they keep doing the right thing again and again and again and again, they only know that one thing that is right. They won't know what is wrong. So by doing the things that are wrong and failing, they know how it works. Then they understand why it didn't work, and then they can apply what they learned here into different scenarios. The standard of education here, I think it's quite modern already. For Sabah Chinese High School, as you have shared with me, I more or less knew the standard. Here, I actually realized it's much more than what I expected from these schools. The facilities that's here, the curriculums that the school is providing to students are way beyond my expectations. In terms of the students, their abilities also, actually the way they progress, some of them might be faster than the students in Singapore, but obviously that depends from student to student. Yeah. But overall, yeah, I have to say that I was very impressed by the state and development of education in Taiwan.